In today's video, we are going to be showing you how to use a how to draw book to create a drawing. I have my finished drawing right here, and I'm going to show you what most people don't show you is actually how to use one of these books. Okay, we're going to keep it very simple with our materials: pencil, regular pencil, eraser, paper, and a how to draw book. I got this from my local library. You can get these from your local library, but we're going to use our eyes again to help us draw instead of our imagination, because that doesn't have enough information, honestly. So let's get to it. Let's get started. Let's make a beautiful drawing. Okay, today's project, we are going to be drawing a dinosaur, but what I am really teaching you is how to use a drawing book, okay? Anything that I am teaching you how to draw, we are using observational drawing. So I'm really teaching you how to see, so that way you can really put what you want down on a piece of paper, because our mark making isn't the limiting factor almost always. It's usually transferring what we see to a piece of paper. And how to draw books are a great reference material for you to help see in the way that will help you transfer anything. But usually most people don't even know how to use these books. So that's what we are doing today. So I have this how to draw dinosaurs book that I got at the local library, and that I'm going to use as my reference material. So I'm just going to page through here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about these books. Okay, so when we are paging through here, they're going to have obviously different dinosaurs. But we're going to talk about how we use these. You can see they have multiple drawings of a single dinosaur. I am going to pick something that I have never done before in this triceratops. I've never drawn a triceratops before. So I don't know how to draw a triceratops. I have a very, very vague idea in my mind what a triceratops feels like, but I don't have enough visual information, so I need to find it here. So this is where I'm going to use as my source material. Now, a lot of times people, when they first look at these books, they just look right at this. Now, this is what the goal is going to be, but this is not where we start our drawing journey for this project. We start way up here, okay? So the reason I like this type of a book is because this is using the same concept that I talked about before with construction, using simple shapes and simple lines to help give us a foundation so we can build this beautiful drawing on top of it. And if you work back, you can see we have the joints and lines connecting joints. That's all. The stick figures right there. And here we have that basic oval that started here, right? And then if you go from here, you go basic oval to joints and lines. And then we start to build our forms, which are 3D shapes, on top of those lines. Add in the details, and we get there. So let's do this together now. So when you work with shapes like this, we can also upsize or downsize things as well. I'm going to try to use a good portion of my paper here, which you can see is going to be much bigger than my reference material. But because I'm starting, okay, with this, all I need to do is start with an oval. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to start with an oval. And when I put this oval in, the important part for this, okay, is that I'm getting an oval that's similar to this, which has a little bit of squat on this side. Okay, something like that. Okay, notice I drew that oval a couple times. Now, notice I am giving myself enough room on this side and this side, okay, for the tail and the head. This is what we would call talking about our composition, okay? So, and what we can always do is use our pencil as a measuring guide. If I have this, and see how I need at least a half of an oval length for my head, which I have about a half would be right about here. That's probably where my head's going to end up. And then on this side, I need close to a whole oval for his tail, which I have close to a whole oval. So his tail is probably going to end right about there. Okay, but that's now I'm getting ahead of myself. So now I have this oval, and I'm going to take a little eraser, and I'm going to erase out some of this, because again, I made my corrections to my oval, and then I can erase out. All right, so here what I'm going to do is I'm looking inside this oval. Where is this joint placed? It's placed right about here. Okay, and I'm looking for the relative size of this circle to the circle that I have. I mean, the oval that I have. The next one is down at an angle, and it's at the bottom of the oval. So I put an oval here, okay? And then straight down, okay, about the same distance, maybe a little bit less, okay, we have this half circle, which is going to represent the foot. And then I can just draw simple lines to connect them right now. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to notice that this hip, okay, the shoulder of this Triceratops is slightly lower. So if I drew it up here, we wouldn't be. And this is what I'm talking about seeing. I'm just trying to evaluate my source material, where things are. Notice that this knee joint is slightly lower. And notice how this line is more straight up and down. It's a lot less diagonal. So I'm going to throw that guy in here, just like that. And then this guy comes down, and this is foot is roughly on the same plane, just slightly above. Okay. And at this point, we're very loose with our sketch. And I can see that this had a little bit of an angle and mine straight down. So this is something that I need to fix. So I'm going to move this here, and that means this guy's got to move just a little bit. Okay. Again, I can erase now because I redrew it before I came up with anything. So on this, okay, and this is where you don't have to follow your source material exactly. I like to get the whole shape kind of in there first. So I'm going to skip some of this, and I'm going to go to this, okay? Because I'm going to see this, and I'm going to look to see this big movement. So I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to say, okay, this guy has to come out, and I'm just looking at this one line, and it curves something like this. Okay, and then it comes straight from here, and then it curves a lot here, and then it curves up kind of like this. Okay, and here we have this curves up from here, and then it goes down. And notice that it in this drawing, it's going below the foot. So I need to come down into this area. Okay. And then this one comes straight off of this guy. And then he slowly meets up like this. Okay. And see here, I'm going to come up a little bit. I'm going to fix that a little bit. I didn't like where I had that. So I'm going to fix that. Again, I'm going to just erase out what I don't need. So now I'm going to go back to here, because now it's starting to throw in our legs. So I'm going to throw this leg in, and I'm just looking at the comparison to these lines and these shapes. Okay, and then it rolls, the knee rolls over, and then it comes down, and then this lower leg gets wider. And then it has these toes that kind of come out like this. See, this is some of the stuff that if I didn't have this reference material, I would have no clue as to how to draw this guy. So now I'm looking at this. This toe comes a little bit lower like this, okay? And then it comes back, and then it's going to roll in. Now I can draw this back leg, the back part of the leg. Back part of the leg starts over here, kind of comes like this. Okay, and then like this, and something like this. Now, when we're sizing up, it might be a little bit harder to get these relationships of this size, but you can always take this. If you use a pencil like this, and I go, okay, it's 1.5, and 1.5, or because I'm taking this measurement, I'm not using this measurement, okay? Even though it's the same thing. We're talking proportions, which are just compared measurements, okay? So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to do this. And so now you can see how this is almost like a triangle, okay? And you could draw different shapes. You could go, okay, I need to draw a triangle here. You know, that's up to you, how you break it down in your head, okay? But I'm going to come in and it comes in like this. And then there's like a little hump for the knee a little bit. And then down. And this angles out. And again, we have these feet, these toes. And the other toe is going to come out like this. It's going to come here. Back to there. I'm going to go right to here because I need to see where that is. And then it's going to come out. And then down like that. And it's going to angle like that a little bit. So I have that. Now I'm going to start to throw in these back legs. Okay. So we have, I'm looking at this circle now comparatively to that circle. So this circle is like here. Okay. See how it's at an angle? It needs to be at an angle. Okay, I might have actually misdrawn it a little bit higher. And then this one is down at this angle this way. Okay, so I have this like this, just like that. And then this foot comes right in front like that. And then this foot is angled back. And this is another thing. If we look at this and I look at where I'm at here, I can tell you that my angle here is wrong. See how I've already had to draw this like 3 times. It's all right. Okay. Because you can see I have this angle here and back here. So where this body meets up in here, we have the legs coming back. And then it's going to angle back this way. And the last little foot's going to be like that. Okay. Then we have the toe, which is this triangular shape. And then an ovular shape for this. And then this is going to angle up this way. And then back into the body this way. Okay, something like that. And then we're going to come up here. And this starts out here, kind of comes out. Notice that there's a little bit of an angle here, so I want to make sure that I'm maintaining that angle. So I come out, maintain that angle a little bit, and then get that foot to come out. Like that. Something like so. There. Okay. So now I'm here. I've done all of this. Okay. So now comes really the starting of the details. Okay. So you can see here, the one thing that we did on this bottom line is the artist kind of defined it a little bit more and came with like this little crook there. We might even go up a little bit more on this guy. Okay. And then about here, you see the oval here. This is where we have probably the most important part of the Triceratops. We have this part that comes down like this. Okay. We come in here and up like that. And then down and like that. Now I butchered where that is. So I'm going to draw it and So I'm going to come down a little bit further. So that way that isn't as big in this little notch isn't as big comparatively to this whole big sweeping motion. Okay. And then this guy's now going to come in. This is another thing. You don't have to be sat on what you had drawn before. I'm looking at that. I'm like, man, that just feels too long to me. So one thing we can always do is make changes. I'm going to curve this guy up, and I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to come in, and I'm going to... He's got to live like about there, in my estimation. Okay. And so then we have that, and then we could do his mouth comes up at an angle like this, and it kind of comes up. And here I'm looking for like this space and that space, and seeing if this space and that space feels right to me. If it feels right, we're good. Okay? And so then here I'm going to come, and then I'm going to just roll this in here. And then that feels better overall, spatially. Okay? And so now I'm just going to look at where this guy starts, like right there. And if I look at like size-wise, it's like his horn is like about the size from here to here. So if I take something like this here to here, his horn's going to be up like this. And now if I look at this, it's an angle kind of like that. I can just throw in an angle like this. It's a simple triangle. Okay, and then there's the next one, which comes down, okay, and like this, and then how he has it angled on his drawing kind of comes in like that. And now we can see we can use this to help place our eyes. So now I'm going to throw in this eye, which is towards the top. I'm going to curve it down like this. And then it's another curve in like this. And then there's if we go about halfway, we have this front horn, hence triceratops. And it's just a simple triangle. So something like that. And then all we need here is a little nostril. Something like that. So now we have a lot of the basics of our triceratops, but it doesn't yet look like what we have on our reference, okay? So now is the time where we add value. So we have our basic structure of our triceratops, but we need to add value. And now, only now, is when we look at our final picture, okay? And this is where we want to bring everything to life. We bring it to life by keeping some areas light, like right here and right here in the tops of these horns, okay? And then we make some things really dark, like right under here, under here, under here, under here, under here. These back legs are going to be in shadow, so they're going to be darker, okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just erase some of these things that I don't need anymore, okay? My construction lines that I don't need anymore. And I'm going to start adding all of my details to this, okay? I'm going to speed up with this, okay? So don't feel like you're not... I'm just going to speed up through this, and we will touch back once I am a lot closer to getting this in a very finalized stage. Okay, so I have started to fill in my values. You can see that it's starting to come together, but it's definitely still rough. I still have a lot more work to refine this drawing, uh, but you can start to see it really start to come together here. I just want to talk about a couple of things at this stage before I move into the final stage, which is really starting to add some of the details into this. So right now I'm just taking this is a kneaded eraser, but you can use any eraser. I just find that the kneaded eraser gives me soft edges when I am erasing, and I'm just looking for those highlights to really bump those back up and take some and knock some of my color away where I don't want it. But you can see that I have my basic value structure kind of added in here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to blend. I'm just going to take my finger. I'm just going to blend some of this because I was not the best with making my hatching lines all consistent. So I'm just going to try to blend it. And that's why sometimes when uh, even though I know this is going to be a little bit lighter than pure white, I do that. So I wanted to point that out. I also want to point out that notice that this line at the top, okay, is much um, thinner than some of these lines at the bottom that are describing some things and that are in this dark area. Okay, this is because I want it to feel lighter. And you can vary your line weight, especially like this line down here. I'm going to make a little bit darker, and it's going to help separate my dark areas from my light areas on this Triceratops. So I'm going to continue to fill this in, but I just wanted to talk about those two things, okay? And so some of these I'm going to come in with my eraser, and I'm going to, because I colored over, because I was trying to go fast, colored over the lines, and I'm going to start to now add the last little details that I got to add onto this guy are my um, these 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 details for scales and you know, the skin texture. So right now I'm focusing on getting the values but not the actual um, texture. And then once I'm through this, here's like, okay, I will go and try to add some of this texture on top. The thing is, if I did the texture before now, what would happen is when I add my value to make it look like it's a three-dimensional Triceratops, is that I would lose it all. Okay, so you need to do those detail work on top of your value structure. So let me get to that and I will meet back up with you at the very end. Okay, there you have it. So you could see now I went and added in some of these other textures to my picture, and it started to really bring this to life. And so this is a nice little Triceratops drawing. Notice that the value range is not as good as in this book, and that's because I decided to stay with just a regular pencil. Okay, so this is not going to make black like we see in here. Okay, so I can only get so dark with my grays. So this is a little bit flatter than what we have here, but still really demonstrates and shows you that you don't need a lot of complicated materials to make a good piece. Okay, so glad that you guys joined me for this drawing, and I cannot wait to see what you guys make yourselves.